confirming news. The Office of National Statistics has just released figures showing that England had the highest levels of excess deaths in Europe in the first half of this year. You will remember that government scientists have repeatedly said that excess deaths are the best measure of the impact of coronavirus on a country, because coronavirus death figures are not counted in the same way in different places, and those headline figures do not include other people who have died as a consequence of the crisis. So the measure that they prefer has this morning seen England anointed as the country hit hardest by coronavirus in the context of excess deaths. And still, of course, they try to claim that they have handled things well, or that there has been success, or that triumph has been achieved and Boris Johnson should take a lap of honour. These are just facts. I mean, nobody would like them to be different more than I do. It's such a strange state of affairs. I even have people texting me to say they're not confused. They're not confused at all. Okay, you are. You're just, forgive me, at the moment, not bright enough to realise that you're confused. The notion that this government has handled this catastrophe in anything other than the worst imaginable way is, I'm afraid, a matter of historical fact. But what have we said since day one, since we started cataloguing the calumnies and catastrophes? We have said just because they muffed it up yesterday doesn't mean they are guaranteed to muff it up tomorrow. So oddly, perhaps, given that this is the ultimate confirmation of what many of us have feared since February, I don't want to look in the rearview mirror today. I want to look at the road ahead, which means, yes, we're having one of our "what do you think is going on" mornings. And that suggestion from me that is almost impossible to resist now, that on some level at least our confusion is the plan, will be part of your options, will be one of your options this morning. But let's look at the other options, okay? And as ever, let's try to find some grounds for positivity or optimism. So the science is changing. This is a good thing. This is what science does. The understanding of this infernal virus increases, and as it does so, the official advice in some ways changes. You could almost make a positive case here if you ignored the existence of every other country on the planet and the fact that a lot of what our government is waking up to somewhat belatedly. For example, this longer isolation period that's just been announced will bring Britain into line with the recommendation from the World Health Organization. So again, trying to be positive and saying better late than never, changing with the science, but with that little caveat that all we are actually doing now is falling into line with the World Health Organization's already established advice. This is the idea that you should wait 10 days after infection, not 7 days, to make sure that you're not spreading the virus, something that I think, well, I can, off the top of my head, I can think of 2 or 3 experts in this country who were saying from the start that the 7-day isolation was inadequate. We had 763 new cases yesterday. Now, that's almost double what our low was 2 weeks ago. Spain had 3 times that figure. Spain had north of 2,100 new cases yesterday, but they had many fewer deaths than we did. We had 83 deaths. They, I think, had 5. But as you know, the incubation period explains the gap between an infection rate and a death. So you can see some case, I think. I know some people are very sceptical about this quarantine on Spanish visitors, certainly on the blanket nature of it. But you can make a case for it, okay? So that's option 1. Everything is unfolding transparently and honestly, and while our confidence in this government would be hugely increased if they would admit the scale of the catastrophe that they caused at the beginning, we can't use that as conclusive evidence that they are going to muff everything up again. Do you see what I mean? This is, I should stress, this is radio for grown-ups today. This is radio for people who actually don't really care what colour your scarf is anymore. We just want to see fewer people die than is absolutely necessary. Okay? That is really the only thing that should matter. And yet here we are talking about, people taking selfies of themselves not wearing masks in shops and talking about mind control and Bill Gates' plans to take over the universe. Donald Trump promoting people who talk about demon semen in the context of how you get ill. All we should be focusing on, and all that sensible people would focus on, and all that I wish we had focused on from the very start, would be keeping as many people alive as possible for as long as possible.